What's up, everybody? We're here to go over UFC Vegas 88. Tuivasa taking on Marcin Tybura. But real quick, I'm going to go over the results for UFC Vegas 87. All my posted bets hit. Had a little bit of an opponent change on. I had Oliveira originally against whoever it was he was supposed to face. I don't remember, but they changed the opponent, and I went ahead and stuck with him and got him at a little bit better price there. Dropped down to 120 from minus 165, so I just put the bet back in at a 1 unit play, and that was a crazy fight, man. A beautiful knockout, and he had me worried there for a minute, man. You know, he was getting taken down, getting controlled a little bit, but yeah, he got back up and he just started taking it to that guy, man, and landed that crazy knee, and one of the better probably one the best knockout, you know, that we've seen in a while, man. It might be knockout of the year, when it comes down to it. But then I had a two fight parlay, which is Vitor Petrino and Mohamed Makayev. That was a minus 105. That was a 1.5 unit play. Was not very impressed with Makayev at all there. I thought, honestly, that he could have lost that fight. That was, I mean, I guess he did a little bit more, but that whole dropping down to his knees whenever Perez would start swinging on him or would run up to him, he'd drop down to his knees looking for a takedown. I mean, that was just terrible looking, for the judges, and embarrassing to have had, that much money riding on him right there. Petrino looked great, though, as always. I guess he could have went after it a little bit, better from the start, but he ended up getting the win either way. So, and then I had a 3 fight parlay, which was Eric Anders, Christian Leroy Duncan, and Umar Nurmagomedov. That was a plus 117. That was a half-unit play. Anders did get dropped by Jamie Pickett in the first round, so I mean that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But either way, all the bets hit. It was good. Coming off a card where we lost a little bit of money, and I also had this hit. Is a 3-team parlay, Ursig, Makayev, and Petrino, and it cashed for $697.44. But this is the second week in a row, man, that I had a giant parlay that that I should have cashed out, because it was like both last weekend and the weekend before that. I had like a 10 fight parlay on both cards that I should have cashed out, man. I could have cashed out for like over $1,000 or whatever, and I didn't. I waited, and then the last fight of the night, both times screwed me. So, not gonna be making that mistake again. I mean, who turns down over $1,000 when you could just take it? I understand it would have been a lot more. It would have been a lot more had they hit, obviously. But I mean, I should have just taken the money. I was already up. A lot of my bets had hit. I should have just taken the money. So, hating myself for that. But either way, came out with a good bit of money on those cards, and uh, hopefully, UFC 299 will be the same. And I'm not gonna lie, man. On this card here, the Tuivasa versus Tybura card, um, man, there's not a lot of spots that I really like on this card, and not a lot of super confident picks I have on this card. Um, if I didn't have, if I wasn't doing a channel, this might even be a card that I would stay away from, except for maybe like some small plays or something, or just like a few small parlays. But I went ahead and put a couple bets on this card anyway. But yeah, I'm kind of torn on a lot of the fights on this card. Had trouble making up my mind. Not super confident. Um, but yeah, man. So please like and subscribe, guys. As always, it helped me out a lot. And thank you to all the new subscribers, and thank you, all for caring what I have to say. As always. If you're new to the channel, what I do is I go through and I give out each of my picks for the entire card, and then at the end of the video, I give out my bets. If you're not interested in watching my videos, you just want to see my picks and my bets, you can go to my social medias. High kick_fight picks is Instagram and TikTok, and then there's a Facebook group, High Kick Fight Picks on Facebook. Feel free to post anything MMA related in there that you want. Post your bets. I want to see everybody's stuff. There's been a few people doing that, and I really appreciate all you guys for that. And also, this show is available on Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff. And yeah, that's it, man. So let's take a look at this card and let's get into it. See what fights we lost. We lost Thiago Moises versus Brad Riddell. And then Grigoriou was supposed to fight Toshinami Kazama. and Kazama withdrew from that fight. So now he is now fighting Chad Ellinger. Um, and first up, we got Josiane Nunes take on Chelsea Chandler. If I could talk, Chelsea Chandler. And Nunes is 30 years old. She is 5'2" with a 67-inch reach. She is 10-1 and 3-0 in the UFC, and she's a minus 140 favorite. And yeah, that's a great price on Nunes compared to what we've seen in the past. I just can't wrap my head around why Nunes fights it. I think this fight is this fight at 130? It says it's at 135, but I think both of these girls they've both fought at 145 last time out. Nunes seems really small, for the division. She looks like she could make like 125 if she wanted. She's half the size of Chandler. She was half the size of her last opponent as well. Um, I don't know, man. I feel like she could have more success in a lower weight class, but she's done well so far. She hasn't lost, so whatever. She had a rough first round in her last fight. She got hit with some big shots, but after the first round, Farron kind of slowed down and just kind of let Nunes take over the fight. Nunes hits very hard. She stays in your face, uses good pressure, has good boxing. But against these way bigger fighters, she just kind of has to wing overhands, because she has trouble getting on the inside. But once she's in the pocket, man, she will throw nonstop combinations, and she doesn't get tired. She has 7 wins by knockout. Um, she's never been finished herself. No, or wait a minute. I don't think she's ever been finished, right? Let me check, make sure that's correct. Yeah, she's never been finished herself. She's never won a fight by submission. Um, where was that? Throws nice calf kicks, pretty good striking defense. Nunes has found a way to make it work. So all of her opponents in the UFC have been way bigger than her, but she's made it work. I just think that eventually the big size difference is going to catch up with her, man, against the right opponent. Will this be that opponent? I don't know. I don't really think so, but we haven't really seen her takedown defense tested yet. She did get taken down against Ramona Pascual, um, but she hasn't really fought any tough competition in the UFC yet either. I mean, people that haven't been able to put together wins or whatever. I mean, Farron, I don't know if she ever won a fight in the UFC. Pascual might be cut from the UFC now. Um, Malecki, I don't think is in the UFC anymore. So I mean, um, she's looked great in those fights, but she hasn't really fought anybody super tough yet. She likes to use her Superman punch to close the distance sometimes and get inside. Uh, she seemed to be very aggressive off of her back when she was taken down by Pascual. Pascual is not a really legit wrestler, so I wonder how Nunes' takedown defense is going to hold up in the future. Nunes shows 45% striking accuracy with 53% striking defense. She's never shot a takedown in the UFC, and she has 70% takedown defense. She lands on average 7.22 strikes per minute while absorbing 5.85, so good volume, but seems to get hit a lot. And she averages 1.29 knockdowns per 15 minutes. And she has a big edge and experience here as well, man. Uh, it's just that size difference that scares me, man. Picking Nunes, and I think maybe that's possibly why the line is what it is. Maybe people are worried about that the size advantage for Chandler as well. And Chandler is 33 years old. She is 5'8" with a 68-inch reach. She is 5-2 and 1-1 in the UFC, and she's a plus 115 underdog. And she has 2 wins by knockout and 1 win by submission. She's way taller, but only has a 1-inch reach advantage. She's never been finished. She's coming off a loss to Norma Dumont, which for only her second fight in the UFC for Chandler, that's a really tough opponent. I mean, I consider Dumont to be like kind of right now, since Nunes is gone, kind of the uncrowned champion at 145. And I think that Chandler trains at the same Diaz as the Diaz brothers, or the same gym as the Diaz brothers. Sorry. She has nasty ground and pound. She's a big lady, man. You could tell her punches got some pop on them. She has good sweeps, good reversals, has nice boxing. But I think Nunes will be faster for sure. I expect Chandler to look to land a lot of knees and front kicks and uppercuts up the middle on Nunes when Nunes is running in. Um, Also, I think it might be smart for Chandler to look for the takedowns because she is very good from top position. She's big enough, maybe she can throw Nunes around a little bit, get a trip or something like that. She's very powerful and close in the clinch, good at using her head and pushing her opponents up against the cage. Using her, using her head to control the chin of her opponent. Up against the cage. Good control. She's relatively inexperienced for her age, and you can tell she's still developing in some areas. She's going to be way bigger. I think if she fights smart, she could win this fight. If she uses her size and strength to get Nunes down, get the control time, I think having a fight with Norma Dumont for Chandler, who might is very good, might have been really good for her. Kind of showed her how to work on a lot of areas that she needs to work on. You know, even though Nunes is 3-0 in the UFC, I would say Chandler has still fought the tougher competition because she fought Norma Dumont. I actually have a hard time on this, man, because I feel like the game plan to beat Nunes is kind of obvious, just no one has really approached it that way yet. Everyone is going with Nunes on Tapology. I'm kind of worried about the size advantage for Chandler, but uh, I think I'm still going to go with Nunes just because Chandler's kind of inexperienced and hasn't really fought all that smart, in her past, her last fight especially. She got hit with a big shot and ran across the cage. But I wouldn't be surprised if Chandler won this fight. I'll take Nunes to win by decision. Um, maybe based on just landing the bigger shots and pressuring Chandler up against the cage. Next up, we got Gerald Meerschart taking on Brian Barberena. And Gerald Meerschart is 36 years old. He's 6'1 with a 77.5-inch reach. He is 35-17 and 10-9 in the UFC. And he's a minus 193 favorite. And he's been around a long time, man. His grappling is the best part of his game. He has 6 wins by knockout and 27 wins by submission. He has been finished a lot in the UFC. He has great cardio. He's gone out there and won fights that nobody thought he was going to win. Whenever he fought Muradov, he was a big underdog. He weathered the storm and got the takedowns and the submission. Same thing against Bruno Silva as well, man. Nobody thought he was going to win those fights, and he's coming off a close fight with Andre Petroski, and I think Mearschart's going to be the bigger guy here. He's more of a natural middleweight. Brian Barberena's always fought at welterweight. Meerschaert's going to have a 5.5-inch reach advantage, and his striking has gotten a lot better as well, man. He's made improvements. He fights southpaw. His head movement and striking defense has gotten a lot better. Clear advantages on the ground here all the way, though, if he can get it there. He shows 45% striking accuracy with 53% striking defense, 38% takedown accuracy with 34% takedown defense, and he averages 2 takedowns per 15 minutes, averages 1.53 submissions per 15 minutes, and he lands on average 3.30 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.50. And he's taking on Brian Barberena. He is 34 years old. He's 6 foot tall with a 72-inch reach. He is 18-11 and 9-9 in the UFC. He's a plus 155 underdog. And yeah, like I said, he used to fight at welterweight, man. His last fight was his middleweight, debut, and it didn't go well for him. Meerschaert actually has a win over the guy that just beat Barberena. So, if you're into MMA math, which that stuff doesn't really work out, we all know that. It's kind of, I don't want to say stupid to rely on that or whatever, but like, you can't base on, who's beat who on stuff because you never know what's going to happen in the sport, Barberena's on a 3-fight losing streak. He's a brawler. He's got the power advantage on the feet in this fight. He tends to fight very wild and try to drag guys into a brawl. His last 3 opponents have taken him down and beat him that way. He's always dangerous. When he lands, he does a lot of damage as well, man. And if his takedown defense, holds up, he's got a good shot at winning this. But he has 11 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. His striking isn't all that technical. He shows 48% striking accuracy with 44% striking defense, 22% takedown accuracy with 50% takedown defense. He lands on average 5.53 strikes per minute while absorbing 4.74. I'm going to be going with Meerschaert to get the win here, to get the takedowns, and get the submission. I'll take him to win by second round rear naked choke. I think he'll be able to get the takedowns here eventually. He's used to fighting way bigger guys. And next up, we got Chad Ellinger taking on Charalampos Grigoriou. I hope I'm saying his name right, at least close. Ellinger is 37 years old. He's 5'6" with a 64-inch reach. He is 12-7 and 1-2 in the UFC, and he's a plus 158 underdog. 7 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission. He's never been knocked out, but has been submitted 6 times. So, all but one of his wins have been by submission. He won a split decision over Muin Gafarov on the Contender Series. He looked great in his debut against a guy who never won a fight in the UFC, to be fair. Was that Jesse Strader that he beat in his debut? Yeah. Where was I at? Then he didn't look very good against Alatang Haley. He ate some big shots. Didn't get finished or anything. Just couldn't really get anything going. Kind of got outpointed. He does have good footwork, man. Throws strikes from weird angles. Not the biggest guy, in the weight class. He has a very short reach, but he was on a great run up until his last two fights, man. Very fast hands, good takedown defense. Uses his jab very well. Threatens the guillotine anytime, somebody tries to take him down. Usually helps him get back to his feet. He has decently he had a decently competitive fight against Jose Johnson up until he got submitted. He just shouldn't have been playing around, with the ground game really in that fight. I mean, maybe that was his game plan, but the grappling wasn't really going his way, and he just kind of kept pushing it. So I mean, that was on him. Um, he was just way too small in that fight. Jose Johnson's like over 6 foot tall. So I mean, he was just really outsized in that fight. Ehlinger is very fast and explosive. He's a pretty good fighter, man. He's got some good wins on his record. Um, at least he's fighting someone here closer to his size. He keeps his hands low at times. Hard to see where his punches are coming from. And this is a winnable fight for him, man. He's taking on a guy here making his UFC debut. And I know there's a lot of hype on this guy, this young guy here. Well, not even young. He's 31. This new guy. There's a lot of hype on him. But we haven't seen much out of him yet, so I mean, I'm not totally sold, on this guy. Ehlinger shows 42% striking accuracy with 52% striking defense, 36% takedown accuracy with 48% takedown defense. Lands on average 3.7 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.55, and he would be smart to mix in the takedowns here. He's taking on Grigoriou. He is 31 years old. He's 5'7" with a 76.5-inch reach. He is 8-3, and this is going to be his UFC debut. He's a minus 195 favorite, and he's going to have a 12.5-inch reach advantage in this fight, which is ridiculous. Yeah, it's ridiculous. He has 6 wins by knockout. He's never won or lost a fight by submission. That's kind of Ehlinger's weaknesses in his game. Ehlinger can keep up with most people on the feet, but if you can get him down and submit him, that's where his weaknesses are. Grigoriou has only been finished once. He has a loss to Christian Rodriguez on his record, has really nice kicks, really big power. Hasn't fought the best of competition as far as his wins go. Doesn't really have a whole lot of good wins on his record, but he does have slick striking, great calf kicks. He has won a fight by calf kicks in the past. And I'm curious about his takedown defense against UFC level competition. I don't find any of the people that he's beaten so far, really that impressive. It's hard based on what we have to go off of, to really say how good this guy's skills are when we haven't seen him fight any high level competition yet. I mean, the guy he beat on the Contender Series was 8-3. I mean, never fought in the UFC. It just seems to not have much as far as takedowns go, as far as wrestling. Doesn't typically shoot. Likes to strike. It's cool to have a fighter in the UFC from Cyprus. I don't know if he's the first one, definitely the only one right now, I think. Part of me wonders if it's worth it to pay that price for a guy we haven't seen much of yet. I'm very tempted to take anheilger here. They have very different styles of striking. Grigoriou is more of a, like a Muay Thai kickboxing type style of striking, while anheilger is, unorthodox footwork and keeps his hands low and attacks from weird angles, has tricky footwork. And that could serve him well in this fight. Grigoriou hasn't fought anybody yet that fights the way anheilger does. So, to me, this is more of a coin toss. I don't agree with the line. And I've been struggling with this one too, man. I guess I'm going to take a dog shot on Ehlinger here, just based on him having the UFC experience and him having beaten the tougher competition so far. I'll take anheilger to win by decision. But I won't be surprised if a big underdog loses. uh, you know. So next up, we got Corey McKenna taking on Jacqueline Amorim. And Corey McKenna is 24 years old. She is 5'3" with a 58.5-inch reach. She's 8-2 and 1 in. That can't be right. I think she's 3-1 in the UFC, not 1-3. Yeah, she's 3-1 in the UFC. I put it backwards. And she's a plus 115 underdog. She hasn't fought in over a year. She has a questionable loss on her record to Elise Reed. Very short reach, but she has good boxing, good at pressuring and heading off her opponents. Very fast and accurate with her jab. She's well-rounded, has nice takedowns. She just beat Cheyenne Velismus in her last fight, and Cheyenne was way bigger than her. She has 2 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. She's never been finished. She's good enough everywhere that she can take the fight, anywhere she wants to if she has to. Good in the clinch, good at landing little shots up against the cage, dangerous jiu-jitsu. She has the better striking out of these two. If she can get Amorim down, she can have success because we saw against Sam Hughes that Amorim doesn't have much off of her back. I think McKenna's got the cardio advantage. If she can put Amorim up against the cage and wear on her, slow Amorim down, I could see McKenna taking over later in the fight. The later the fight goes, she shows 40% striking accuracy with 49% striking defense, 56% takedown accuracy with 71% takedown defense, and she averages 2 takedowns per 15 minutes, and she lands on average 3 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.22. And she's taking on Jacqueline Amorim. She is 28 years old. She's 5'3" with a 68-inch reach. She is 7-1 and 1-1 in the UFC, and she's a -140 favorite. She's going to have a 9.5-inch reach advantage. She has 2 wins by knockout and 5 wins by submission. She's never won a fight by decision, and she's never been finished. She lost to Sam Hughes in her debut. Her cardio looked terrible. She looked good in her next fight, but she was fighting, possibly the smallest fighter in the UFC. A fighter that's had a lot of trouble getting anything going in the UFC. Um, she knows for her, she's known for her grappling, great body lock takedowns and trips. Seems like she hits pretty hard. Before the UFC, all of her fights had ended in the first round, and it seems if you can take the fight to her and make her work, she'll slow down a little bit. She's great at setting up her arm bars, world-class jiu-jitsu, not very technical striking, just kind of loads up on big shots. Probably has the power advantage on the feet, though. Obviously, for her, she's going to want to look for the takedowns, try and get a submission. That's what she's good at. But McKenna has never been submitted, so I mean, there's that. And Morum, she's only had 2 fights in the UFC, so you can't really rely on the numbers. They don't have her takedown defense listed on the website, but I know she got taken down several times by Sam Hughes. This is a close fight, man. More people on Tapology are going with McKenna, yet Amorim is the favorite on the betting line. Um, I feel it's close, man. So I'm going to take the underdog. I'll take a shot on McKenna here. I'm not going to get heavily invested in it, but I need to see a little bit more out of Amorim, as far as cardio wise. I mean, I know she looked good in her last fight, but that fight, she wasn't having any adversity in that fight. She easily got the takedowns. Her opponent had nothing for her. So, I mean, I think McKenna's probably got something for her, and this could be a little bit more competitive fight. And, we'll see if McKenna can out cardio her and maybe come on late, win the last 2 rounds or whatever. But I do expect Amorim to have some success early, come out with some crazy stuff and maybe get a takedown or whatever. But I'll take the dog shot on McKenna, man, to win by decision. Next up, we got Brian Battle taking on Angelusa. And Brian Battle is 29 years old. He's 6'1 with a 77-inch reach. He is 10-2 and 5-1 in the UFC, and he's a -145 favorite. And I'm wondering how many people will agree with me on this fight. Uh, Battle's got 3 wins by knockout, 5 wins by submission. He's never been knocked out, but was submitted once early in his career. Most of his wins in the UFC have been over guys who have struggled to get a win in the UFC. AJ Fletcher went 1-3 in the UFC. I guess Gabe Green had a few wins, but he's been knocked out quite a few times as well. Urbino looked like he didn't belong in the UFC last time he fought. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just saying that I'm not surprised that Brian Battle beat all those guys that he did. He is well rounded. He has nice chokes, big power, great counter striking. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage, good front kicks up the middle, good at managing distance. Good striking defense as well. He did get dropped by an elbow in his last fight against AJ Fletcher in the first round. But aside from Fakhretdinov, this will be the toughest guy that he's fought. I think Lusa is an underrated fighter. Battle is good with his knees in close. He's good at using his reach when he has the reach advantage. He will sit back and hit you with teep kicks to the liver over and over while you're trying to find ways to get on the inside. Coast, kind of see what you're going to do, and then go to work. Going back to his last loss, it was just the high-level wrestling that he couldn't deal with and didn't have an answer for. He is very good, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm not a Brian Battle fan or that I don't know how good he is, because I really do. He shows 55% striking accuracy with 43% striking defense, 25% takedown accuracy with 45% takedown defense. Those two numbers stand out as places, for Angelusa to attack there. The Battle won't be able to take him down most likely, and has, questionable takedown defense. So, um, and Battle lands on average 4.52 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.73. He's taken on Angelusa. He is 29 years old. He is 5'10 with a 74-inch reach. He is 10-3 and 2-1 in the UFC, and he's a plus 120 underdog. Um, 5 wins by knockout and 1 win by submission. This guy fought Jack Della Maddalena on the Contender Series to a decision. A lot of people haven't been able to do that. His last 2 fights have been wars, and even though he hasn't gotten the finish, he's done some serious damage. In those fights, he did a great job of dealing with the taller, longer fighter in his last fight. Used great forward pressure, chased McKee up against the cage, and just unloaded on him. Then shot a great double leg takedown. He's just putting a beating on McKee, through the first 2 rounds, and even some of the third. I know he got caught with a few shots at the end of the third round, but I think he was just kind of coasting at that point. He knew he had won the fight. He throws great calf kicks. He's good at slipping punches and coming over the top. Very fast, those great combinations. He's never been finished. Great takedowns. I like how much he mixes in the takedowns. Great ground and pound, good top pressure. If he can get the takedowns in this fight, that'll be a good thing for him, a good way for him to get ahead in this fight. He's no slouch on the feet either, though, and his pace and pressure are two of his best weapons. He shows 47% striking accuracy with 51% striking defense. 45% takedown accuracy with 100% takedown defense. He's never been taken down. He averages 2.25 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he lands on average 6.32 strikes per minute while absorbing 6.88. So puts out good volume, but does get hit a lot. This is another tough fight for me, man. Everyone is going with Battle on Tapology, I think. Yeah, almost everyone. But I'm liking Lusa here, man. I think they match up well in the striking, but Lusa has the better wrestling. I'm not super confident in this pick, man, but and a lot of people will be like, okay, well, Brian Battle finished, AJ Fletcher, in the second round or whatever, and Angelusa had a war with him and this and that. Like I said, that stuff doesn't really add up to me, man. Not always, because you also see people, lose, 3 fights in a row to people, and then go out and beat somebody, really good that no one thought they were going to beat, and just that stuff doesn't work. Um, like I said, not super confident in it. I'm going to take Lusa to win by decision. Um, and I'm just curious what everybody else thinks about that, man. If y'all would agree with that, if y'all are, consider a Battle to be that much better. I mean, I think it's a pretty close fight. So this is another one I'm having a lot of trouble with. This is why I'm like so torn on this card that I'm like I almost want nothing to do with this card, because there's fights on here that I'm like, man, I really just it's tough for me, man. Tough for me to pick. First up, we got or sorry, not first up. Christian Rodriguez taking on Isaac Dulgarian. Rodriguez is 26 years old. He's 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. Uh, he is 10-1 and 3-1 in the UFC, and he's a plus 110 underdog. What I don't understand here is that they have this fight listed at 145 pounds. I know Rodriguez has had trouble making weight in the past. I'm guessing that's why, but Rodriguez made his debut up at 145 and he lost, and then went on to win 3 fights in a row at bantamweight. Why would he push himself to go back up to 145 when maybe with just a little bit of tightening up the diet, whatever, he could probably make 135. Instead, he's going to choose to go up to 145. Rodriguez is a great fighter. Don't get me wrong. He just beat Cameron Saman and beat him everywhere, striking everywhere. He has 3 wins by knockout and 4 wins by submission. He's never been finished. He has great submission defense, really good boxing, throws nice straight technical punches. I mean, I like I said, he's struggled to make weight, but I just don't understand why he would go up a weight class and fight another, um, really big wrestler. Because his debut was against Jonathan Pierce, and he got controlled the whole fight and out wrestled. And I just kind of worry about that for him here, against another good wrestler. Uh, where was I at? Uh, I lost myself here. Great counter striking, good at setting up his knees and elbows, good body lock takedowns, great chokes. He's good everywhere, man. The weakest part of his game would be his takedown defense, but he does have good sweeps. He's hard to keep down. Great power on his punches. His 1-2 down the middle is lightning fast. Great at finding his range. Very good at just staying out of the way of the strikes so that the counters are always there. Uh, just out of the way. He does so many things well. Saman is a very talented kickboxer, and Rodriguez outstruck him. Rodriguez takedown defense, will have to be on point in this fight, man, because Dulgarian is a very good wrestler, not just somebody with a wrestling background. He is a high level wrestler. Rodriguez has a habit of giving up his back, but sometimes he can scramble with that, in the process, and is able to get to his feet or reverse position. He shows 46% striking accuracy with 59% striking defense, 55% takedown accuracy with 70% takedown defense. He averages 1.40 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he lands on average 3.51 strikes per minute while absorbing 2.46. And he's taken on Isaac Dulgarian. He is 27 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. He is 6-0 and 1-0 in the UFC, and he's a minus 130 favorite. All of his wins have been by finish, 4 knockouts and 2 submissions. Even all of his wins as an amateur were by finish as well. All first round finishes, so that makes you wonder about his cardio. Made his debut against Francis Marshall, who also had a wrestling background, and he couldn't stop the takedowns. Didn't have nothing for Dulgarian. He out wrestled him easily. He puts out a high pace, those hard calf kicks, great wrestling, very high level, very heavy top pressure, great elbows from top position. All of his fights look the same, man, guys. There's not much to see. He's been very dominant. The guys these guys are the same height, but Dulgarian is going to have a big size advantage and a big power advantage. I see why he's the favorite, man, because like I said, we've seen Rodriguez taken down in the past. I just wonder how Dulgarian will hold up if the fight gets to the second round. But I'm assuming that he probably is the real deal. He probably does have good cardio. I do think that Rodriguez has the better striking, but I don't know if it'll matter if he can't keep it on the feet. It's another hard fight to pick, man. Everyone on Tapology is going with Rodriguez, but it's completely possible that this fight could look similar to the Jonathan Pierce fight for Christian Rodriguez. Man, he's dealing with a bigger guy here. They got the same reach, the same height, but Dulgarian is a 145er. A real legit one. He's a big guy, strong. So, man, torn on this one, man. I feel like I should pick Christian Rodriguez, but I don't know, dude. Something's telling me that Dulgarian may be able to get these takedowns and control this fight. I hate picking against Christian Rodriguez because I'm such a big fan of his. Um, been struggling with this one, man. I've been going back and forth on it. I'm gonna take Dulgarian to win. Maybe Rodriguez is able to survive. All 3 rounds. I don't think Rodriguez has really ever been, has ever been finished. So I don't know, man. It's a tough one. I'm gonna go with Dulgarian. I'm gonna take him to get the takedowns and win by decision, even though he's finished everyone. I don't know. Next up, we got Ode Osbourne taking on Rafael Fiallo. Ode Osbourne is uh, he's 32 years old. He is 5'7" with a 73-inch reach. He is 12-6 and 4-4 in the UFC, and he's a plus 135 underdog. 4 wins by knockout, 5 wins by submission, and I used to think quite highly of Osbourne, but I just not anymore. He's let me down a lot of times. He's a big flyweight. He's real long for the division. Does have nice striking at times, but all but one of his losses have been by finish. His cardio looked terrible in the Charles Johnson fight, which he barely won. He probably should have lost that fight. He's going to have a 4.5-inch reach advantage in this fight. He fights mostly southpaw. He keeps his hands kind of low, leaves a lot of openings. He has decent striking, good counters. His takedown defense hasn't looked good in the past, and his chin has been checked quite a few times. All of his losses in the UFC have been by finish. But his submission defense and awareness are the weak parts of his game. He does have success at times using his range and fighting long on the feet. Osbourne may have the better striking at range, if he can keep, Fialo off of him, but um, he tends to throw only one or two punches at a time, where when Fialo gets on the inside, he rips off 3 or 4 punch combinations. Ode shows only 39% striking accuracy with 45% striking defense, 28% takedown accuracy with 69% takedown defense. It says he averages 1.37 takedowns per 15 minutes. I can't remember the last time he shot one. Um, he lands on average 3.74 strikes per minute while absorbing 4.41. So the numbers aren't very good there. Gets hit more than he lands. And he's taken on Rafael Fialo. He is 30 years old. He is 5'7" with a 68.5-inch reach. He is 15-3 and 1-1 in the UFC, and he's a -165 favorite. 5 wins by knockout, nine wins by submission. All but one of his wins have been by finish. He's never been knocked out, but he has been submitted twice very early in his career. He beat a 7-0 guy in the Contender Series. He's got good Muay Thai, striking, dangerous jiu-jitsu, very well-rounded, very powerful and strong. Made his debut against Muhammad Makayev and made a good account of himself on short notice. Showed off his knee bar. Very strong with his body lock. Great at taking the back from a lot of different positions as well. He's very quick to threaten the guillotine when guys are shooting on him. Kind of uses it to help stuff the takedowns and try to sweep or wind up on top. Likes to finish his combinations with the calf kick. You can tell he prefers to grapple, but he does hit very hard, and his striking holds up as well. He has the advantages on the ground here and the better wrestling. We saw him get hurt in his last fight early and survive and get the win. He was really digging those shots to the body, man. Really hurt that guy with those. They were nasty. He's got super high level jiu-jitsu, man, in my opinion, and he constantly attacks submissions. That will be the key to his victory here, man. He hasn't had enough fights yet, in the UFC to get the stats going to talk about the numbers, but I'm going to be taking the win by submission, round 2, rear naked choke. And this is oops, sorry. This is one that they just added, fairly recently. I watched the tape on this one. I didn't have time to sit down and do all my notes over it, but I'll go over I watched the tape on it this morning before I started doing this. Um, and this is an interesting matchup, man. Mitch Ramirez, he lost his fight on the Contender Series. Did he get finished? Yeah, he did get finished by Carlos Prates. Um, but that was up at 170, so we're gonna get to see him down, at his natural weight class here at 155. And that's his only loss, and Prates is a pretty bad dude, high level kickboxer. So there's not even any. This has been added so recently that there's not any predictions on Tapology yet. Um, and so it's Thiago Moises taking on Mitch Ramirez. Moises is 28 years old. He's 5'9" with a 70.5-inch reach. He is 17-7, and he is 6-5 in the UFC. He's got 3 wins by knockout, 8 wins by submission. High level grappler, man. Lost to the last fight to Benoit Saint Denis, which is there's no shame in that loss. Whatsoever. Saint Denis is on his way to fighting for a title if he beats Poirier. But Thiago Moises is kind of, he's very good. He's underrated. His striking, I mean, he was landing some good shots on Saint Denis in some of those exchanges. He just had a big, he was at a power disadvantage. Saint Denis was hitting him way harder. So, but he's only really lost to really tough guys. He lost to Joe Alvarez, Islam Makhachev, Saint Denis. It's got wins over Bobby Green, Alexander Hernandez, Michael Johnson, Kurt Hollabaugh. He's really only lost to really good guys. I mean, Benil Dariush, Demir Magulov. I mean, his key to winning this fight's going to be, his grappling, his jiu-jitsu. He's going to look for the takedowns, get a submission probably. He's going to be at a half-inch reach disadvantage. As far as Mitch Ramirez go, man, I don't know that he's going to be able to keep this fight on the feet. He is 31 years old. He's 5'11" with a 71-inch reach, 81 or 8-1 record, and this is going to be his UFC debut. Lost on the Contender Series, like I said. Went back and got another win by knockout in the LFA. I mean, he's got a lot of finishes on his record. Like I said, only one loss. More wins by knockout, 5 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. And after watching the tape on it this morning, I'm going with Moises. I think he's going to be able to get the takedowns here and try to get a submission. Um, I just haven't, I mean, the guys that Ramirez has beat, I guess, have some decent records, but I mean, this is like in Tough Enough and Jeremy Holloway in XMMA, that was a decent win, even though Jeremy Holloway's record was 10-5 at the time. But I mean, he's been around, he's fought some decent people, but um, I'm taking Moises here. I think he's going to get the takedowns and get a submission. But you never know what happened, man. It's just we haven't seen much out of Ramirez at a high level yet. The only thing we've seen at a high level was him getting knocked out on the Contender Series. So um, I'm going to go with what I know, and I know that Thiago Moises has got world class grappling and dangerous submissions. So I'll take Moises to win by submission round 2. Um, let's say rear naked choke. Sorry, I didn't have time today to get more notes down on that, man. I just watched the tape this morning and was doing it all off the top of my head, guys. I apologize. They just added that. Next up, we got Josh Culibao taking on Danny Silva. I'm going to grab some water real quick. And Culibao is 29 years old. He's 5'10" with a 73-inch reach. He is 11-2-1 and 3-2-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 195 favorite. 5 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. I really like his kickboxing. Going back to the Sungwoo Choi fight, he looked amazing in that fight. Very fast and accurate. When he fought Melsik Bagdasaryan, he was having trouble in the striking. He had his nose broken pretty early, so he was being kind of tentative, but as soon as he got, a hold of Melsik, he sunk in the rear naked choke very quickly. He's very light on his toes. He switches stances back and forth a lot, very unorthodox. I did pick him to win against Lerone Murphy, and he had a decent first round, but whatever. Murphy ended up winning the last 2 rounds, but he does best whenever he's out in the open. So he can use his speed and his footwork to set up his shots. He's definitely fought a lot of tough competition. Has a big edge there. He made his debut up a weight class against Jalen Turner. Went to a draw with Charles Jourdain. And having a competitive fight with Lerone Murphy, an undefeated guy. I mean, that says a lot, for Culibao. I'm sure he's going to come in here better than ever. He puts out a lot of volume, throws 3 or 4 punch combinations. 3 or 4 punches to his opponent's 1 punch sometimes, in some of his fights. He's really good at faking like he's entering the pocket and drawing out his opponent's punches and then countering. He has a nasty straight right hand that he kind of like leaps into that shot when he throws it, man. He'll draw out his opponent's punches and then he'll leap in with that straight right hand and just put a lot behind it. And he has a 3-inch reach advantage in this fight as well. They haven't updated his stuff on UFC.com because it still says he has zero wins by submission. So I mean the numbers probably aren't accurate up to date because we know he beat Melsik by submission. But he shows 43% striking accuracy with 57% striking defense. It says he's never landed a takedown in the UFC, but I'm not sure if that's accurate, like I said. But I don't know that he's ever really tried. He may have tried against Lerone Murphy. I'm not sure. Um, uh, and he has 73% takedown defense. And he's taking on Danny Silva. He is 27 years old. He's 5'11" with a 70-inch reach. He is 8-1, and this is going to be his UFC debut. He's a plus 160 underdog. He has 5 wins by knockout. He's never won or lost a fight by submission. So his only loss on his record was 2 fights ago, and it was to Kanan Kilauai. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right. Hawaiian guy who's been on the Contender Series twice, and he lost both times. So not a good look there to lose to him. But to be fair, Kanan looked very, very good in that fight. I went back and watched it. So Danny Silva hasn't really fought, anybody good yet. Really good boxing, switches stances well, great calf kicks, which could serve him well in this fight. Very powerful. Goes to the body a lot. Great elbows and knees in close, nasty combinations. It was a fun fight on the Contender Series, man. A lot of back and forth. Such a good fight that both guys got the contract. He pushes a crazy pace. He's always moving forward. Does get hit a lot though. He tends to mostly box, though probably He's probably not as well rounded as culibao is. Like I said, in the Final Contender Series, he was mostly just a boxing match for the most part. Um, uh, going back to his last loss, his opponent in that fight was doing a good job from the outside, fighting kind of similar to the way Josh fights, but nowhere near as good as Culibao is, obviously. And he also got a takedown on Danny Silva, so a few times. So I mean, maybe that's something that Culibao could look for in this fight. This could be a close fight. I'm going to be going with Culibao to get the win by decision, just based on the fact that he's fought the way tougher competition and has the UFC experience. Next up, we got Pani Kianzad taking on Macy Chaisson. And Kianzad is 32 years old. She is 5'7" with a 66-inch reach. She is 16-7 and 5-4 in the UFC, and she's a plus 140 underdog. Um, I'm a big fan of Kianzad. She's a good-looking woman, and a good boxer. She's been boxing since she was very young. She was also a shoot fighting champion in Sweden before the UFC. These two fought before on the Tough Show, and Macy won by submission. Kianzad's not a big finisher. She only has 3 knockouts on her record, no submission wins. She throws good straight punches, not a big power puncher. Her weaknesses have been her takedown defense in the past. She hasn't been submitted since 2018 though. I wonder at times if she can make 125 because her current opponent, Chaisson, and her last opponent, Caitlin Vieira, just seemed way bigger than her. Um, hasn't been the most active fighter either the last few years. Really nice 3-2 combination. She has a great jab. Um, she showed some decent grappling in her fight against Landsberg. She was taking the back up against the cage, just kind of throwing the one leg over and kind of slowly dragging her opponent down to the floor. She does fight well in the clinch. It's pretty close on Tapology, but Kianzad is actually favored on there by a little bit, which is surprising to me since she lost the first time these two fought. Macy does have to cut a lot of weight to make 135. I think she belongs at 145. So maybe Kianzad can out cardio her. Maybe it would be smart for her to target the body on Chaisson. We've seen Macy hurt with body shots in the past. Kianzad shows 49% striking accuracy with 54% striking defense, 30% takedown accuracy with 71% takedown defense, and she lands on average 4.87 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.75. And she's taken on Macy Chaisson. She is sorry, my voice is going out on me. She is 32 years old. She's 5'11" with a 72-inch reach, and she is 8-3 and 6-3 in the UFC. She's a minus 170 favorite. 2 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. She's basically grown up in the UFC. Most of her fights have been in the UFC. She has a win over Norma Dumont, who are considered to be kind of, like I said earlier, the uncrowned featherweight champ. She's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage. She's huge, but she hasn't fought in a year and a half. And she was having success with her wrestling against Irene Aldana and was kind of on her way to winning that fight before the upkick to the liver. She's good at fighting long. She's good at controlling people up against the cage. She throws kind of looping shots a lot, which defeats the purpose of her long reach. She's not very fast. She's usually at a speed disadvantage. Most of her wins, aside from her boring decision win over Dumont, were against terrible competition. So, she's just so much bigger here that I worry, for Kianzad. I think she's going to come out and look for takedowns. That's the way to beat Kianzad. Kianzad has the better striking. Chaisson shows 45% striking accuracy with 47% striking defense. 34% takedown accuracy with 64% takedown defense. And she averages 2.17 strikes per 15 minutes. 2.17 takedowns per 15 minutes, my bad. And she lands on average 3.64 strikes per minute while absorbing 2.61. I want Kianzad to win this fight, but I'm going to be picking Macy Chaisson to win by decision. I think she's going to use her size and get a few takedowns and kind of win on control time. Next up, we got Mike Davis taking on Natan Levy. Mike Davis is 31 years old. He is 6 foot tall with a 72.5-inch reach. He is 10-2 and 3-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 250 favorite. Seven wins by knockout, one win by submission. He's taller, but he only has a half-inch reach advantage. He hasn't fought in a year and a half, and he lost his debut to Gilbert Burns by submission. I guess I'm surprised that Davis is this big of a favorite. You know, I thought he'd be a favorite for sure, but um, you know, he's probably going to be up over a minus 300 favorite. He is very athletic and explosive, very powerful, good boxing. His best win was over Mason Jones, who for no reason, I don't understand it. Does anybody else know why Mason Jones isn't in the UFC anymore? I mean, he's a really good fighter. I don't understand why he's not in the UFC. Um, Davis does load up on everything, very fast, always exciting to watch. Going back and watching the Mason Jones fight, it was a pretty close fight, man. He arguably could have lost that fight. Everything that Davis does is with full power and strength. It's no wonder that he does tend to slow down a little bit as the fight goes on. He has good takedowns. He's going to be way bigger. I think his takedowns may be what he's going to have the most success with in this fight. They don't have his statistics up on UFC.com for some reason. And I just wonder, I mean, I'm not sure if he's out for an injury or why he's been out as long as he has. But from what I've seen, I mean, he's a great fighter, you know, throws nasty combinations, just big power on everything. And yeah, I think he'll be able to get the takedowns here against Levy if he wants them. He's taking on Natan Levy. He is 32 years old, 5'9" with a 72-inch reach. He is 8-1 and 2-1 in the UFC, and he's a plus 205 underdog. And I think Levy is a great fighter. He's had fight after fight fall out here lately. You can tell he's still rounding out parts of his game. He's never won a fight by knockout, but he has dropped his last two opponents several times. He has a karate background, if I remember correctly. 3 wins by submission. He's never been finished. I like his striking. It's very technical and accurate. Great kicks. Nice left high kick. You know, honestly, originally before I looked into this fight, I thought for sure I was going to go with Levy. I expected him to be the favorite, just because I forgot, you know, kind of forgot how good Mike Davis was. But he hasn't fought anybody really good yet, you know. And if Rafa Garcia can get Levy down, I bet Davis could as well. I think Davis is the more well-rounded fighter here. Davis also has the power advantage. Levy has better kicks for sure. Big advantage there for Levy. Levy shows 52% striking accuracy with 59% striking defense, 57% takedown accuracy with 41% takedown defense. It says he averages 5.37 takedowns per 15 minutes. I don't know if I guess he has gotten quite a few takedowns. I don't think he'll be able to get Davis down, though. He lands on average 4 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.52. Pretty close numbers there. I like Levy a lot. I think he's going to stick around a while. I think he's going to be in the UFC a long time. I don't see, aside from landing a crazy kick of some sort, I don't really see him getting the win here. I'm going to be taking Davis. I'm going to take it to win by decision. I think he has the option if it's not going his way on the feet, even though, you know, he's got the better hands for sure. If it's not going his way on the feet, I think he has the option to get the takedowns. It'll either be a knockout for Davis or a lot of control time and ground and pound for Davis to win a decision. Yeah, everybody on Tapology is going with him too. Next up, we got the co-main event. Kennedy and nzechukwu taking on Ovis St. Preux. Kennedy is 31 years old. He is 6'5" with an 83-inch reach. He is 12-4 and 6-4 in the UFC, and he's a minus 450 favorite. This guy's huge, man. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. I'm a big fan of his. But there's been 2 times now where he's got hit with a shot that didn't look like very much, and he folded. So sometimes I do wonder about him and worry about him. But there have been other times where we've seen him take a bad beating and then come back and get the win, like against Oldberg. So he is very good, man. He will often have a bad first few minutes of the fight that come on later in the fight. Great chokes with his long arms, good takedown defense, big power. Not gonna lie, man. Other than Carlos Oldberg, most of his wins have been over guys who I don't think very highly of. His wrestling is good. He's good at using his reach. Really good in the clinch up against the cage. Very good with his body lock. Great trips. I think he has the advantages in most areas of this fight. I'm not sure he's going to go out there. I'm sure he's going to go out there and try to get the clinch and get the body lock and try to get St. Preux down. But he shows 47% striking accuracy with 52% striking defense, 50% striking or 50% takedown accuracy with 80% takedown defense. Sorry. He averages close to 1 takedown per 15 minutes. Lands on average 4.86 strikes per minute while absorbing 4.27. And he has an average fight time of 9 minutes and 10 seconds. He's taking on Open St. Preux. He is 40 years old, almost 41 now, 6'3" with 80-inch reach. He is 26 and 17 and 14 and 12 in the UFC, and he's a plus 340 underdog. He's been around a long time. He's fought lots of tough competition. John Jones, everyone you can think of, really. He's been knocked out in 3 of his last 4 fights. He has 11 wins by knockout, 9 wins by submission. I'm not gonna lie, man. Aside from him landing a big shot of some sort, I don't see him getting the win here. He may have more technical striking, but he's way slower. I think Kennedy is going to do, most of his work in the clinch and on the ground. And I'm just keeping it short and simple on this one. I'm taking Kennedy to win. Um, Taking a win by submission round 2. I think he's going to lock in some sort of choke, a front choke or guillotine choke or some sort of choke, man. When he's got Oven St. Preux up against the cage. Next up, we got the main event, man. Tai Tuivasa taking on Marcin Tybura. Tai Tuivasa is 6'2". He's got a 75-inch reach, 31 years old, 15 and 6, and 8 and 6 in the UFC, minus 125 favorite. 14 wins by knockout, never won a fight by submission. I'm a big fan of Ty's, man. How can you not be? Huge power, slick boxing. But he has been finished 3 times in a row now, and his bad takedown defense is really starting to catch up to him. No doubt he's got the bigger power out of these two, and maybe the better boxing. But he doesn't really throw kicks. But if his takedown defense doesn't hold up, he's not going to win the fight. I think a lot of people are kind of thinking the same as I am. The betting line is very close. There's a big favoritism for Tuivasa on Tapology. Which I don't know. I'm very torn on this fight as well. Tybura does have, some wrestling or whatever. He has the option. He can do that. I just, man, I don't know, man. I feel like, Marcin Tybura is 38 years old. He's 6'3" with a 78-inch reach. He's 24 and 8 and 11 and 7 in the UFC. He's a plus 102 underdog. 8 wins by knockout and 7 wins by submission. So you can tell, he's the more well-rounded fighter out of these two. He fights southpaw. He's going to have a speed advantage in this fight. He's landed 11 takedowns in the UFC. So, I mean, if he gets to a single, he could probably get Ty down. Ty has the striking advantage, the power advantage, but Tybura is going to have the better cardio and the wrestling option if he uses it. I want Tuivasa to win this fight. My brain is telling me to take Tybura. Everyone on Tapology is going with Tuivasa. I know Tybura got knocked out really quick last time out, but I don't think Tuivasa is anywhere near as fast as Tom Aspinall is. I don't know, man. This is a fight I'm torn on. I feel like my brain's telling me to take Tybura. It's a 5-round fight, man. I mean, who's to say Ty could land a big shot in that amount of time? I want Ty to win. I want to pick him. I mean, the line's close. I hate to do it, man. I'm going to take Tybura to win by decision, or maybe submission. I think if he's smart, he's going to go out there and immediately look for takedowns and fight that way. Because otherwise, why wouldn't you? If you have the option. He's got wins by submission. He's gotten takedowns in the UFC. That's the recipe to beat, Tuivasa. But I'm rooting for Tuivasa, man. He's one of my favorite fighters. I wouldn't be surprised if he landed a big shot and knocked Tybura out, But yeah. So that's all my picks, guys. As far as my bets go, get on here and pull these up for you. I don't have a whole lot, dude, on this card, guys. I got 2 plays. Rafael Fiallo minus 155, 1 unit play. Then I got a 2-fight parlay, which is Kennedy and nzechukwu and Mike Davis. And I caught that early on. It's a minus 128 for the 2 of them. That was also a 1 unit play. I probably shouldn't have got even as heavily invested as I did on these either. I probably should have just stuck with a half unit play on both of them. But there's that, and then even as far as my parlays go right now, guys, I mean, I think I only have like a 7-fight parlay max on here or something. The first parlay is four fights. It's Rafael Fiallo, Kennedy nzechukwu, Mike Davis, Joshua culibao. The next one I added The next one I added Angelusa to that. That's a plus 851. And let's see. So, and then to that I added Dulgarian, and that's plus 1582. That's a 6-fight parlay. And then to that I added Gerald Meerschart. So only a 7-fight parlay max right now is all I got. I mean, I'm sure I'll make a bigger one, guys, but I mean, I'm not super confident in a lot of this card, man. Not super confident in a lot of these picks. Um, but this is a 7-fight parlay. It's plus 2,454. I'm sure I'll have a bigger parlay. I have an ongoing parlay right now. Um, it's a uh, three event parlay, which Duncan, Anders, Ursig, Nurmagomedov, Makayev, Petrino, they've all won already. And then I've got some plays for this weekend's card. Despain, Gamrot, Almeida, St. Denis. And then I've got a couple off of this card, culibao, Fialo. Um, yeah, so I mean, maybe this one will hit. If it does hit, it'll be over $3,000. So, um, and as far as like, let's see if there's any changes to this weekend's card, UFC 299. Before I get off of here with you guys, everything looks the same if I remember correctly. Um, they did finally pull up the lines for Felipe Lins, Zion Kutilaba. Some people have been giving me hell about picking Lins. I know. Hey, you guys are awesome. I appreciate all you guys for watching and everything. Don't get mad at me. Lens is a slight underdog. It's a pretty close line. I'll probably have Lens in like a big parlay or something, but I'm not going to be heavily invested in him. Um, but I think everything else is the same, man. And I really appreciate all you guys. Thank you so much for caring what I have to say. Thank you for your support, and hope you guys win some money, man. I'm out of here. Got to go work on this next card.